Dear colleagues, I'm glad to have possibility to present our research on the topic Substantiation of Sustainable Education terms as one of the modern views on STEM education taking into account European experience. Actually, the main idea of the research is to provide real usage of the terms of sustainability in the field of pedagogy. In general, there are a lot of usage of term of sustainable development, and this is pretty widespread term. However, in general, it's more populism than real practice how to use it. And our research is provide usage of the concepts of sustainability into pedagogy and to substantiate the terms of sustainable pedagogy, teaching, and education. In general, the terms that near to sustainable didactic, sustainable education act is currently exist. However, they are very close but not generally use approaches related to sustainable development and do not provide them into pedagogy. For example, there is a term like education for sustainable development that actually have been used by UNESCO, and there is a definition official of this term. And also there are a few studies where this term also was used, and actually was not that this approach do not foresee the using of terms and concept of sustainable development and providing it into pedagogy. It just notices that it is required to develop new methods that for example, formate ability to formate question or critical thinking. Also, there are a few other terms related to sustainable education and pedagogy. However, no one of them is adopt the principles of sustainability into the teaching and pedagogy. Also, there is a few very close terms like sustainable didactics, which we will substantiate in this research. However, it just contains definitions that it's outline new paradigm of learning and teaching without the details. And also there is term sustainable teaching, which foresees interaction between stakeholders in education and politicians. As we see, the terms like sustainable didactics and sustainable teaching is relevant. However, it is not researched enough, and also it is required to have better substantiations that it has now. So for our research, we provide detailed analysis of the literature. We analyze general usage of the terms of sustainability to have full understanding and position of current state of the problem. Then we for sure use typical Venn diagrams to implement terms of sustainability and also to visualize traditional sustainability approach. And also we used it to visualize the approaches of sustainable pedagogy and didactics into a diagram. And also we developed definitions of the terms related to sustainable pedagogy, didactics, and teaching. So let's look at the typical sustainable approach. It foresees that any approaches and projects should have three main components that are economics, environment, and social. And if all of those concepts are really implemented, then the project is sustainable and it ensures sustainable development. we adopted those terms and find equivalents of those terms that are related to pedagogy. For example, as economics is very close to something pragmatic, in education this will be equivalent like competence or pragmatic component, which mean the quality of education in general, the knowledges which this education gives, and in future those knowledges and competences will be used into real practice to improve economic. As equivalent of environmental component, it's health preventing. We think that this is really equivalent because of, in general, if we talk about nature, if we talk about environment, it also always about the health. For example, health of the people or health of animals, health of flora and other terms that are related to health. Therefore, if we use the term environment, its equivalent in education will be health preserving. And the last social component, as it was used in Venn diagram of sustainable development, it's social, and its equivalent actually it's motivation and socialization of students which are involved into educational process. And this is also very important because it motivation of students to educate and also to provide science researchers in future lead to improve of the competence and pragmatic component of sustainable pedagogy, which in fact also as socialization is going on also improves health of the students. Therefore, it is possible to visualize those components in the diagram when as traditional approaches of sustainable development also visualized. And we see that competence component, health preventing component, motivation and socialization component in combination gives sustainable pedagogy, which provides high efficiency of education, motivation to continue the education, and health saving component to provide psychological health of students to also continue education and to just to have psychological health. So the terms of we also defined main terms of sustainable pedagogy. The first of them itself, it's sustainable pedagogy. And this is direction in activity which relevant to field pedagogy, which covers all educational activities and components based on implementation of components of sustainable development, which were demonstrated at the previous slide. Sustainable education process always will take into account the components of sustainable development directly in learning and teaching in formal and informal educational process. So this is the usage of those components of sustainable pedagogy in teaching process actually. Didactics for sustainable pedagogy foreseen the development and implementation of components of sustainable development in methodological and methodological didactic materials. So this is usage of those terms during providing materials which will be used for education, and therefore those methodological materials should contain all components which were noted before. One of the example which covers both STEM and sustainable education is using some interactive mobile application like Google Lens, was detailedly researched in our previous studies, which for sure improves motivation of the students to provide researches when they go home and after school. It ensures communication between students, like they can say, I found this plant, I found this plant, and let's teach more about this plant together. It's for sure ensures communication in both AI and botany, and one of the last our research proves that in both Ukraine and the USA it was efficient for students. And also this improves psychological stage. One of our previous researches also shows that psychological state of the student during using this approach is improved. And it was not that sustainable pedagogy in general most close for approaches like science education, STEM-based approach, and it will be the most efficient to use those approaches together. You can see on the slide the conclusion, but main of them, that main terms of pedagogy are substantiated, and it is proved that uh, sustainable pedagogy has huge potential to use together with STEM, science education, digital didactics. And also we found that sustainable pedagogy is applies like components like health preventing, motivation and socialization, and also competential approach. So thank you for your attention. If you have any question, you can use our emails to contact us.